Hello, I'm Paul Perrello, and welcome again to the Philly Factor. From time to time, we have all heard about flash mobs. Usually they're a group of people that show up at a restaurant, or they'll start singing in the train station. They start entertaining a group of people that are pretty much unsuspecting. They're not even aware of what's going on. We have seen them, as I said, pretty much everywhere we turn: shopping centers, the train center, food courts. But what about a free hug flash mob? That's right, free hug flash mob. My guest on this edition of the Philly Factor is Edie Weinstein, the founder of a group called Hugmobsters, Armed with Love. And Edie, thanks for being with us.
My pleasure. I'm honored to be here.
I was intrigued by this, your whole concept and your whole idea, and I would think that given what's going on in the world today, I think everybody can really use a hug. I got mine before the show started.
And you get one when I leave too.
Okay, that's even good. So talk about how this project, how you came up with this idea and how it has evolved over the years.
Okay. Well, I didn't create the free hugs movement. I can't take credit for that.
Okay.
Started somewhere around 2008, 2009, I believe. Gentleman in, I'm thinking New Zealand or Australia. His name is Juan Mann. And he had just moved to the area, was feeling really lonely, and decided to go into his town square with a sign that said, free hugs.
Okay.
And he stood in the town square for about 20 minutes. Nobody came by. Wow. They all just walked past him. And then this older woman, who I think her dog had just died, was feeling really lonely and sad herself. She comes over to him, reaches up, he reaches down, and they embrace. And then other people started coming to him one by one. And it was the hug heard around the world. So more people started doing it. In 2014, Valentine's Day weekend, I brought a group of friends to 30th Street Station here in Philly to do a free hugs flash mob. And it again took people by surprise. A friend of ours at noon started playing the song Give a Little Bit and walking around playing his guitar. And there were about a dozen of us there, and we walked around the station asking people if they wanted a hug. Now, the cool thing about this, and the important thing, is that it has to be by consent. We weren't doing swoop by, grabbing people hugs. We asked, would you like a hug? And if they said yes, we would hug them. And if they said no, we'd say, okay, thank you. Because people usually say, nah, I'm good, when they say no. And I'll say, no, you're good, but hug somebody. So we did it that day because Valentine's Day is typically seen as a day for lovers, for couples. But we wanted people to understand that Valentine's Day is every day, and it's for everybody. So during the course of an hour, we hugged a few hundred people. One of them that approached us was a gentleman who was an Iraq War vet, and he had survivor's guilt because he was the only survivor of his platoon. Wow. And he thought about ending his life, and he said, until I met you people, can I join you? So we gave him a sign. He was off to the races. And it occurred to me that hugs save lives. I don't know where this gentleman is. I haven't seen him since then. I don't even know if I'd recognize him if I did.
Sure.
And friends started calling us Hugmobsters, flash mob, hug mob. And I said, oh, mobsters, mafia, I don't think so. So then I came up with the tagline, Armed with Love. And one of the people that was there was an artist, so he designed the logo, which looks very much like this.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, I got this, a friend gave this to me, and she said she got it at IKEA.
Okay.
So they might still have some. And sometimes I take them with me on the hugs, the hug strolls. So right after that, a few months after that, I had a heart attack at 55 years old on the way home from the gym. And as part of my cardiac rehab, I walked around Doylestown. I live in Bucks County. And I thought, why don't I combine the hugging with the walking? Because hugs are cardiac friendly. Right. They synchronize our hearts if we're hugging somebody. But they're also emotionally heart friendly because people feel that connection. So I hug in Doylestown a lot. I hug in Philly a lot. I've hugged in Portland, Oregon, in New York. I was in front of the White House in September. I was near Toronto this past week, so I did some hugging in that area. And then a year ago, I hugged my way across Ireland. Wow. And it was remarkable. Yeah. I keep the signs in my, no, I didn't take that one with me to Ireland. It was too big. I had a sign about that size. But I keep that one in my car, and you never know. The other thing that I've started doing, and I'll tell you a bit more about this, is free mom hugs. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I was going to get into that in a little bit. Cool. All right, so we'll get into that in a little bit.
Wonderful.
But I wanted to talk, so here you are at 30th Street Station. It's busy. It's the hustle and bustle of people coming and going. And you break out into this sort of, hug mob. Yeah. I mean, what's the reaction of the people that, people are looking at you and they're like, What?
They were, I mean, literally embracing, not just symbolically, but they thought, oh, this is wonderful. And there was a couple that got married. No, they didn't hug us, but they were okay with being videotaped. And a friend of ours did the video for us. He was one of the huggers as well, our friend Rod. But most people were thrilled. Like, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing this. We so need this. This is so important. And there was a line of people waiting to get on a train, and we worked our way down the line.
Yeah.
They didn't get out of line,
Yeah.
so we came to them. And that one man stood out for us as the pivotal, the focus of the whole thing. We thought, oh my goodness, look at the difference that this makes.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, people were totally accepting. Now there are people that are not comfortable with touch.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that, because given the world and the way that we're today about respecting people's distance and parameters, that you would think that. I mean, so my question is there a proper protocol for hugging? I mean, must you have? I mean, you're just not going up to a total stranger,
Right.
and offering them a hug or embracing them. You're actually asking them if they would like a free hug.
Yes. So yeah, there are parameters, partly because it's just appropriate, because we have body sovereignty, and part of it is because of the #MeToo thing.
Yeah.
That there's some people that don't understand that it's not acceptable to touch somebody. Just as an example, if a woman is pregnant, then her belly for some people is like public property. People just go touch. So I'm really conscientious about that as well. So when I approach people, I'll say, "Would you like a hug?" I'm offering hugs, or I have my sign, and that helps. And as I said, most people say yes. And when they say no, I say, okay, handshake, fist bump, high five. Usually there's some, or virtual hug.
Yep.
So usually there's some alternative that I offer people. And I'm an educator too. I'm a consent educator. So I tell people that nobody touches you without your permission. Now children, this is an interesting thing too. When they're children, they're with their parents, grandparents, whatever adult they're with, I'll say to the parent, if it's okay with you and okay with your child, may I hug your child? If mom and dad say yes and the kid says no, it's no.
Right.
So I use that as a teachable moment. And I say to the child, your body is your own. Nobody touches you without permission. And because I probably, when you were a little kid too, oh, go hug Aunt so-and-so, and you didn't feel like it.
Right.
I hated having my cheeks pinched. That happened a lot.
Yeah.
So I teach that. I teach body sovereignty. I also talk about the importance of meeting skin hunger needs, because our skin is our single largest organ. And when babies don't get enough touch, they fail to thrive. They die. Adults do too. High suicide rate among people that are lonely and isolated. So hugs meet that physical need as well. Virginia Satir was a psychologist who's since died, who talked about the idea that we need a minimum of 4 hugs a day just for survival, 8 hugs a day for maintenance, and 12 is optimal. Unless I'm doing free hugs, I don't get 4 hugs a day.
Exactly.
I don't get, So part of it, it's not totally altruistic. It helps me too. It also, and I keep touching the microphone, so I'm hoping that comes through clearly. Sorry. I'm hugging the microphone. So the other part is that hugs are great for pain relief. And what I like to say is that, that it stimulates the brain chemical oxytocin, which is the cuddle hormone, if you've heard that. And what I like to say is more oxytocin means less OxyContin.
For sure.
And it does really make a difference.
How many people are involved in your group that go out and perform these hugs?
Random acts of hugs.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. I mean, our first group, I think there were a dozen of us. Sometimes I just do it by myself. There are times when 2 or 3 people show up. I put a call out for it, post on social media. I let the world know that this is happening. And sometimes people join me, and sometimes they don't. And I'm fine doing it by myself.
Yeah.
I did it with 2 friends in the D.C. area, and they hugged a few people, but they were not as comfortable as I am, and it took me a while. The first few times, I was a little sad, like, what do you mean you don't want to hug? But I respect people's boundaries.
Yeah.
And now it's a no-brainer. I can do it spontaneously anywhere.
And that's another question that I have, because some people may feel like, yeah, that's a great idea, it's a great concept, but I'm not that type of person. I'm not comfortable extending beyond my little, circle of the world. I mean, so you obviously have the personality to do something like this, But there may be other people that say, yeah, it sounds like a good idea, but I
Yeah.
just can't bring myself to doing that.
Yep. Yeah. And I have a lot of very nurturing friends and family members who would never do it because that's not their comfort zone.
Sure.
And it is mine. I grew up in a really touchy-feely, nurturing family. For a lot of people, touch was either limited in their homes growing up, limited, sexual, abusive, coercive, or not by consent. And in my home, none of those things existed.
Sure.
Nobody left our home without an I love you or a hug. Nobody came into the house without an I love you or a hug. So my parents, I told them, they're both gone, but I told them that they raised me to do, they raised me to do this because it made such a difference.
So do you feel that this is like your life mission today?
Partly, I would say that it's my passion, connecting people, because we live in such a divided world, divided by culture, divided by religion, by gender identity and appearance, by sexuality, by politics. And when I hug people, unless they tell me, I don't know what category they fall into.
Right.
And my intention is to make the world a kinder place. And hugging brings people together across all of those self-created borders.
Yeah. Do you find as you reach out to these people, and whether it's a random hug, you're just meeting someone, whether it's 30th Street or walking in Doylestown, that they themselves then become inspired, or they turn around, they say, Edie, gee, I want to know more about your group.
Right.
And this sounds like something that I might want to do.
Oh, absolutely. And I encourage people to do it. I tell them, share the love, whether you do it formally, make up a sign, go somewhere with your hug sign, or whether you just do it spontaneously throughout your life.
It's a great project that you've undertaken. Any idea how many people you may have reached out to?
Thousands.
Yeah.
Friends keep saying I should have a clicker, but I don't want to do that because I rather that it just be heart to heart.
Yeah.
So I don't keep track of how many. But I would say in an hour, this past weekend I was at the Bucks County Book Festival in Doylestown. And in the hour that I was there, maybe somewhere between 75 and 100 people.
Wow.
And some of them I knew, some of them I didn't know. And the more the world knows about this, the more people are going to want to do it. I was really blown away. In the last couple of months, I was featured in 3 different publications. One was Women's World, one of those tabloids that you get. Another was Women's Day, which is coming out this week, I believe. Doylestown Patch, which is a little publication there. I was on KYW, so it's really getting out there. And it's not about me. It's about this. It's about the movement. And my dream for it is to have people doing it all over the world.
Yeah. When if you're hugging people in Philadelphia or Doylestown or South Jersey, or maybe even in Seattle, let's say, people are people regardless of where you are. But when you said that you were in Ireland, were they more receptive to it, less receptive to it? Is there a difference between Europeans as opposed to Americans?
I think so. Culturally, and I don't want to stereotype, but culturally I think Irish people are much more embracing. And it didn't matter where I was. Could be on the street, could be in a pub, could be my favorite hugger in Ireland. Really cool story. There's a park in Galway called Ayers Square. And there was a young man, probably late teens, early 20s, who was blowing these massive bubbles. He had a stick with a string on it and big barrel of soap, and he had dreads down to here. He was shirtless, and he says, come here. And I said, what? He says, he says, you come from the land of the purple marshmallow people, because my hair was really purple there too, and I had a purple scarf on. And I hugged him, and then I went on my way. And when I came back, again, he motioned me over. He says, come here. And he starts rubbing his head against my shoulder like a kitty cat. He says, I'm wearing patchouli oil, and I want to get it on you. So I don't remember his name, but I will remember him forever.
Yeah. Some of the people maybe that you've had contact with, have you maintained relationships?
Yeah.
Have they reached out to you, Edie, and said, hey, I was having a really bad day the other day until you or someone in your group, gave me that, that desperately needed hug that I needed.
I do hear from some people who want to do it themselves. Something that jumped out at me when you just said that, when I was in Portland a couple of years ago, I had just gotten out of the car and with the daughter of a friend that I was visiting, and the first person I hugged was a man who said, "You have no idea how much I need this. A friend just ended her life, and then somebody else in my family just died, or my life just died of cancer." And this was the first person I hugged. So that makes a difference. Teenagers really surprise me. I think that I was surprised that they would think that somebody old enough to be their mother or grandmother, they'd want to do it too. So in Doylestown, a lot of the teens have followed us around and joined us for hugs. So that surprises me.
Yeah, we're watching a video right here as we're talking of you in action, actually giving hugs in downtown Philadelphia, right there near the Love statue.
Yeah.
And you can just see how receptive and agreeable people are. And what's amazing, Edie, is that a sign that just says "free hugs" goes a long way in sort of making that that introduction to to people, total strangers.
Absolutely. Well, that was taken in 2016, like yesterday.
Okay.
We're doing this interview on the 16th, and this was October 15th of 2016.
Okay, so
and we called it Hugs Across America.
Yeah.
And there were 25 cities in the country represented. So I connected with two friends out in San Francisco. They were anchoring the West Coast. We were anchoring the East Coast. And there were people in Chicago, in New York, in Oregon, in Texas, in Hawaii. I have a friend that did it in Hawaii. And they weren't all at the same time,
right?
But that day, we gave them latitude to do it anytime that day. And this was at Dilworth Park before, when it was moved. It wasn't at Love Park at that point.
Right.
And there was also some other event going on at the same time. So we had a lot of people coming through. It was an amazing experience.
Yeah. And again, just something as simple as a hug, and reaching out to people and asking them if they would like a hug, could really change a person's life. If not long term, at least for the immediate moment where they may just be having a bad day.
Absolutely.
They may have missed out on a job promotion. They could have got bad news, or they just it's just a plain old ugly day outside with the rain and everything. Hug goes a long way. Yeah,
you never know what goes on in somebody's life behind closed doors. So it was just remarkable. The other thing that I'd mention, I'm not sure how much time we have, but I'll tell you about the Free Mom Hugs. I found out about this organization through a mutual friend who does free hugs as well. My friend's name is Vanessa, and she's out in Scranton, and we've done a lot of hugs together. She connected with this woman in Oklahoma City named Sarah Cunningham, and your viewers may have heard about her. Sarah is a devout Christian whose son came out to her as a gay man in, I'm thinking around, I think it was probably 2014. And she had this really difficult dark night of the soul, saying, how do I choose between God and my son? And she realized she didn't have to. So Parker had invited her to come to a Pride Fest in Oklahoma City. She made up a free hug sign, and by the end of the event, she said she was covered with tears and glitter, because a lot of the people who come out to their parents, as LGBTQ, are not embraced, they're not hugged. So she started Free Mom Hugs. Then she became ordained as a minister and married same-sex couples, and then she's also a stand-in mom at same-sex weddings, where their own moms wouldn't be there. Wow. Jamie Lee Curtis got a hold of the story, and they're making a movie about it.
How about that?
I've never met Sarah, but that's on my bucket list as well. And there are chapters all over the country, so I'm part of the Pennsylvania chapter of Free Mom Hugs. And this summer I went to 4 different Pride Fests. One in Philly, one in Allentown, one in New Hope, and one in Doylestown. And the people that I hugged, mostly kids, young people, cried. Our moms, our dads, or whoever don't accept us. And we're so glad that you do. And by the end of the events, I was covered with sweat and glitter too, tears and glitter too. Yeah. And it was just remarkable.
Yeah. This whole mission, or this whole, give me an idea as to when you're not involved in the free hug movement, the Hugmobsters armed with love. What else is it that you're...
What do I do when I'm not hugging?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a therapist. I'm a psychotherapist. I see clients in a group practice. I'm an interfaith minister, so I perform weddings and baby blessings and funerals. I'm a journalist. That's my passion. I'm definitely, I love to write. I'm a book author. I wrote a book called The Bliss Mistress Guide to Transforming the Ordinary into the Extraordinary. And I like chicken soup for the soul kind of stories.
Yeah.
I'm also a speaker. I speak on everything from relationships, communication, spirituality, sexuality, loss and grief, addictions and recovery. I'm also an addictions counselor, mental health issues, wellness, anything about the human condition is what I write. Peace, social justice issues.
Let's mention your website, because
Yes.
if people are looking for more information on the free hugs or some of the other
Anything that I
topics that
do.
you brought up, where could they find you?
My website is www.opti-mystical.com. And where that came from is a message, if you want to call it that, from whoever or whatever, that said, you're not just an optimist, you're an optimistic who sees the world through the eyes of possibility. So I encourage people to be possibilities thinkers.
And how did that message come through to you?
Well, either meditation or a dream, I forget. But I do get a lot of those. I get a lot of intuitive messages, if you want to call it that. And I gratefully accept them. That's where a lot of my writing inspiration comes from. The muse speaks to me 24/7.
Yeah.
As a creative person,
Yeah.
I'm sure you understand that.
How has this whole experience then with the Hugmobsters Armed with Love, how has this, I mean, we talked a little bit about how it transforms the person who is on the receiving end
Right.
of that embrace. How has it transformed you?
It's helped me to slow down, because I used to run at 1,000 miles an hour with my hair on fire. And when I'm hugging somebody, I'm fully present with them. I try to do at least a 20-second hug and heart to heart, so left side to left side.
Okay.
And it has slowed me down. It's made me bolder in asking to connect with people. And it's helped me to be able to understand that no is not a rejection of me. It just means that's not their comfort level. And I've learned to be much more, what's the right word? I don't know. Again, just keep saying bold, just putting myself out there. And it's also helped me to be more visible. My dad grew up in South Philly, and he knew everybody, so I inherited his gift of gab and ability to connect. He was also a SEPTA bus driver,
Okay.
so he talked to a lot of people. So it's helped me kind of walk in my dad's footsteps as well, because I think he would have done this. Had he lived, he would have done it.
Is there a proper protocol in giving a hug? I should have asked this sooner in the program, but some people, it's the bear hug.
Right.
Some people, like you said, heart to heart, embrace that way. Is there a proper, protocol for hugging, as long as you have that
Permission,
that permission?
right. Not really. I mean, it's whatever that person's comfort level is, and sometimes it helps to have a good spidey sense. Like if somebody's wiggling a little bit, squirming a little bit, I let go, and I attempt to be the last one to let go. So if they're uncomfortable, they let go first.
Right.
And as somebody who's vertically challenged, I'm 5'4". I appreciate when somebody taller than me comes down to my level, or at least we meet in the middle. That's helpful. If it's somebody, and there haven't been too many people that are shorter than I am, unless they're children or very petite people.
Right.
So sometimes I'll come down to them. Dogs love hugs.
Yeah.
In Doylestown, there's this wonderful Great Dane named Freckles, black and white. I forget, there's a particular breed of Great Dane that are black and white. Harlequin? Like a clown, kind of, I think it was a Harlequin. And he, at a lot of the street fairs, Freckles is there.
Yeah.
So I sometimes hug Freckles.
Yeah. What has been the longest hug that you've ever had?
Well, outside of personal relationships?
Yes,
you mean?
of
Okay.
course. Yeah. I don't want to get too personal.
That's okay. I don't even know, but probably a minute or so.
Really?
Yeah, and you think that that's not a long time, but if you're hugging somebody you don't know, that your heart synchronizes, your breathing synchronizes. It's a moment. You have a moment of presence with somebody that they may never have experienced. A really sad event happened. You had a guest on your show who's a dear friend of mine too, Patricia Gallagher, and a few years ago she brought a group of us to a veterans homeless shelter in Kensington, and I did a mini hug workshop there where I was talking to the gentleman about the importance of nurturing touch. And this one man sighed and he said, "I haven't been hugged in 20 years.
Wow.
Can you imagine that? So I gave him lots of hugs that
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
You know.
The mission that you're on is so remarkable.
Thank
We only
you.
have about 2 minutes left
That's okay.
in the program, but you would like to see this continue to grow,
Oh,
by
absolutely.
leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
People, again, if they, if they're interested in sort of forming their own chapter, their
Yeah.
own group, they can reach out to you,
Yeah.
and you can sort of give them parameters as to
Yeah.
how to go about this.
Yeah, I'm much more visible on Facebook, Edie Weinstein, EDIEWEINSTEIN, and I may be maxed out on Friends. However, people can still follow the page. They can message me if they want to know more about how to do this themselves. And I would love to see this happening. They don't have to call it Hugmobsters if they don't want to,
Yeah.
but to do free hugs, because they really are free and abundant. Doesn't cost you anything other than your hesitation or limitation, fear of stepping out of your comfort zone. So yeah, maybe it does cost you that.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I've hugged people on the streets. I've hugged people, people living on the streets, and I've stayed healthy. I've never, haven't caught anything.
Yeah, that
I
would be
haven't.
the apprehension.
Yeah,
Some
not
people
at
don't
all.
want to do something
Not at
because
all.
they're not
Yeah.
sure who
Yeah.
that person is that's going to be on the receiving end.
Right. Yeah, I've never gotten sick. I've never, caught anything hugging a whole bunch of strangers. And a friend of mine said that this helps you with your immune system, that hugging keeps your immune system intact.
Yeah.
So that helps. And I've also found there really is no difference between whether more men are huggier, more women are huggier, people all different ages, There's some cultures that are not comfortable, and I respect that. And once again, I offer an alternative to hugs.
Yeah.
So it is, it is a pretty remarkable experience, and it does me a lot of good too. It
Yeah,
really
for
keeps
sure.
me going.
Well, you've inspired a lot of us
Thank you.
with
Thank you.
your presence here on our program. I want to
Thank
thank
you.
you for the great work that you're doing. Keep up the great job.
Thank you.
And I look forward to speaking again with you soon and find out how things are going.
Thank you.
All right. I want to thank Edie for being with us on this edition of The Philly Factor. My name is Paul Perrello. Go out and hug someone today. Thank you very much for being with us. Yep, for sure. Thanks.